Since antiquity, painting has been based on realistic representation. Realistic painting requires the use of appropriate materials that allow the artist to best realize his values and intentions. With oil-based paints, it became possible to depict the fine nuances of color found in nature. Indeed, it is only with oil painting that the artist can produce a work with structures and textures approximating those that our eyes can perceive. There is no other technique that can achieve the degree of refinement and detail that oil painting is capable of. Because oil paints enabled the artist to realize his vision of color to the greatest possible extent, they became more and more popular as time went on, eventually becoming the medium of choice of great artists. The oil in such paints facilitates a gradual drying process, allowing paints to be applied and reapplied for a longer period of time and enabling the creation of new and more nuanced colors. The expressiveness of oil colors is wide-ranging, such that they can create a deep impression regardless of whether they're applied thickly or thinly. In addition, merging oil colors on the canvas is relatively simple. The properties of oil paints, therefore, mean that they have a clear advantage over other painting media. The traditional painting technique enables depth and transparency to create the impression of a spatial dimension. In earlier works in particular, great artists succeeded in creating realities in their paintings that could not be perceived by the naked eye. In these classic works, the artists applied the colors in a certain order. Starting with the first layer or underpainting, they built up the image step by step in individual layers. How, for example, did Da Vinci create the fascinating and subtle nuances of color in his Mona Lisa? Several thin layers of paint were applied and coated with several layers of glaze. Each layer of glaze was applied very finely, with a thickness of less than 1 millimeter. The luminosity of the colors stems from the fact that the transparent glaze was applied to the substrate layer by layer during the painting process. The subject matter thus seems to glow from the inside, an effect that cannot be achieved by direct painting. The colors on the surface of the painting are the cumulative result of many applied layers. This technique makes paintings appear more realistic, because it comes closest to what we experience in the natural world. In classical art, the many details of paintings serve the subject as well as the overall composition. These reflect not only the artist's ability to paint, but also his thoughts, observations, and understanding of life. For example, the depiction of Napoleon at the Battle of Austerlitz, a historical war scene. The battle is displayed simultaneously as a whole, from the beginning through the climax to the end. Only a painting can produce an event of this magnitude in its entirety in a single image. Understanding traditional culture is not only about the realism of techniques on the surface. In terms of content, it requires interpretation and the communication of values sincerely held. It is difficult to replace the traditional, realistic method of painting with something else, as it is already a very high and mature art form. So why not take up this heritage of traditional expressive skills and classical painting techniques, in other words, traditional oil painting, in order to be able to pass them on to future generations? If you are looking for perfection, you will naturally arrive at the most suitable method, traditional painting with oils.